So let me ask you a question. You've got a rental property, you're about to rent it out, you've got an applicant. What questions should you be asking the prior landlord that rented to the tenant? Now that's the biggest question, right? You gotta know, first of all, what can you and you cannot ask a prior landlord to your tenant? Because there are rules and you wanna make sure that you are compliant with your state, city, and local laws. Now, one of the things you first gotta figure out is, are you actually talking to the right person? Now, if the tenant was renting from a management company, that's gonna be easy because you can always Google the number, look them up online, and you can call that number. But if it is an actual person that you're calling, that's gonna be a little bit tougher. So you wanna make sure that you are actually talking to the prior landlord that the tenant says they rented from. Now, one of the things I recommend is don't just ask for one landlord reference. I would ask for multiple, meaning maybe a 5-year history. What you wanna do with this is I wouldn't just call the prior landlord, I would call the landlord before that one. The landlord that you're talking to may be just wanting to get that tenant out of the property, and they will say anything that they can say just to get them out so that it is no longer their problem, it is now your problem. So you always wanna make sure that you talk to the landlord prior to that to see how did they leave the property, what kind of condition, was there any friction, would they re-rent to them? And again, there are certain things that you can and cannot ask. You wanna make sure that you are compliant with those because you don't wanna get into a discriminatory or a fair housing violation. Now, you always wanna make sure that you do your due diligence when you are renting to a new tenant. One of the biggest challenges in being a landlord is not doing the proper screening with an applicant, not having policies, not having procedures, and not following them. There's a reason policies and procedures exist. And the last thing you wanna do is take someone else's problem, put them in your nice, new, fancy place, and now it becomes your problem. Because the reality is your problems are gonna start and stop 99% of the time with the tenant that you put in there. So you always wanna look at the tenant's past. If you look at the past, you'll see their future. You wanna look at, do they keep the job long-term? Do they stay long-term? If they've been hopping around once every couple months to a new job, once every couple months to a new place, they're not gonna change that pattern. They're gonna stay in that pattern. If the landlord says they will not re-rent to them, that's a problem. That's a big question you wanna ask. And again, look at their past, see their future. This is something that you also wanna make sure when you are having them fill out the application process. Number one, I'm a big believer in charging an application fee. And the reason I say that is if they can't pay the application fee, how serious are they about renting your place? You wanna make sure that they are committed to renting the place because once you say that you can rent it to them, you have to legally take it off the market. If they're not serious about renting it, you just take your property off the market and it's no longer being marketed, and now you're behind the curve when it comes to renting your property. So always think about all these things when it comes to renting your property to specific people. And again, ask for references, make sure you call those references, verify that the references are who they say they are, and ask them those questions. Make sure you're abiding by all the local legal laws, and make sure that you are being fair and objective, and you ask every prior reference the same questions. I wouldn't change and do different questions for different tenants. I would just keep the same questions and keep those as part of your business policy, have them written down in your policies and procedures manual. And if you're telling me that you don't have a policies and procedures manual, then I would say you either need to buy one or create one because, again, this is where lawsuits and litigation happen, and this is why 95% of landlords fail in the first 5 years is because they don't treat it like a business. So always remember, you are creating a business and you are creating a successful business model, and that model is dependent on the tenant that is renting your property. You've got to treat it professional so that you can make sure that they treat your property with respect and it is a true client operator operation. Hopefully this helps. We'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. And if this is relatable to you, leave me a comment. I'd like to hear from you.